They stole everything. My husband, his family, they took my millions, threw me out like garbage, and left me with nothing. I was broken, homeless, destroyed. But they made one mistake. They underestimated me. Now I'm back, and I own everything they have. Let me tell you how I destroyed them. This is a story of betrayal, survival, and the sweetest revenge you'll ever hear. If you love powerful comebacks and watching bad people get what they deserve, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment if you've ever been betrayed, because this story will give you hope. Let's begin. My name is Margot, and at 28 years old, I was living what most people would call a dream life. I had built a successful fashion import business from absolutely nothing. No rich parents, no inheritance, no handouts, just pure determination and countless sleepless nights. My company was worth $3.2 million. I owned properties, had smart investments, and my business was thriving beyond my wildest expectations. I remember looking at my bank statements sometimes and feeling this surge of pride. I did this. Me. A girl who started with a $2,000 loan and a laptop. That's when I met Brandon at a charity gala. God, he was magnetic. Tall, handsome, with this smile that could light up an entire room. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world when he looked at you. He told me he was a businessman with big visions, someone who understood the struggle of building something from nothing. We talked for hours that night about dreams, ambitions, and what success really meant. I fell hard and I fell fast. Within 8 months, we were married. Everyone told me it was too soon, but I didn't listen. I was in love, truly deeply in love, and I thought I had found my soulmate. Brandon was everything I thought I wanted, attentive, supportive, always saying the right things. He made me believe in fairy tales again. After the wedding, Brandon moved into my penthouse. That's when I met his family properly. His mother, Patricia, was this stern woman with cold eyes that never quite smiled, even when her mouth did. His brother Kyle had this entitled air about him, always talking about money and opportunities. And his sister Nicole was sweet on the surface, but there was something calculating in the way she watched people. But I brushed off my discomfort. They were my family now, right? About 3 months into our marriage, Brandon started a conversation that would change everything. We were having dinner, and he reached across the table, taking my hand in his. "Margot, I've been thinking," he said softly. "We're married now. We're building a life together. Don't you think we should combine our assets? It just makes sense for a married couple." I hesitated. Something in my gut twisted uncomfortably, but then he looked hurt. "Don't you trust me? We're one now. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. Isn't that what marriage means?" He made it sound so reasonable, so loving. He made me feel guilty for even questioning it. So I did it. I signed the papers. I transferred properties into joint names. I added him to my business accounts. I gave him access to everything I had built. Every single thing I had worked for, I handed over because I trusted him, because I loved him, because I believed we were partners. Looking back now, I can see exactly when his mask started to slip. It was subtle at first. The papers were barely filed when his family suddenly needed a place to stay. "Just temporarily," Brandon assured me. They moved into my house, the house I had bought with my own money, and that temporary stay never ended. 6 months into my marriage, my entire life became a living nightmare. Brandon changed overnight. The loving husband vanished, replaced by a cold stranger who looked at me with contempt. His family took over my home like invaders claiming conquered territory. Patricia would bark orders at me like I was her servant. "Margot, make tea. Margot, clean this mess. You're useless anyway, might as well make yourself helpful." Kyle literally changed the locks on my own office. My office? He started running my business into the ground with his idiotic decisions, and when I protested, Brandon would grab my arm hard enough to bruise. "Everything is in my name now," he hissed at me one night. "You're nothing. You have nothing. So shut up and be grateful we let you stay here." Nicole would parade around in my jewelry, drive my cars, wear my designer clothes. She'd smile at me while doing it, this cruel little smirk that said she knew exactly what they were doing, and there was nothing I could do about it. The abuse escalated daily. Patricia threw hot tea on me once because I didn't make it sweet enough. The burn on my arm took weeks to heal. Kyle destroyed my personal belongings, photos of my parents who had passed away, mementos from my childhood, things that couldn't be replaced. He did it laughing. Brandon watched it all happen and did nothing. No, worse than nothing. He participated. One night I found documents in Brandon's study. My hands shook as I read through them. It was all there, laid out in black and white. This had been planned from the beginning. Brandon had never loved me. His family had done this before, targeted successful single women, romanced them, married them, stole everything, and disappeared. I was just another mark, another victim in their disgusting scheme. I confronted Brandon with the papers. That's when he hit me, really hit me, across the face so hard I saw stars. "You stupid woman," he spat. "Did you really think someone like me could love someone like you? You were just a pathetic rich girl who fell for a pretty face. We took everything, and there's nothing you can do about it." They kept me trapped in that house for another 2 months, making my life hell, breaking me down piece by piece. Then one morning, Brandon threw a suitcase at me. "Get out. We're done with you." He filed for divorce, and his expensive lawyers, paid with my money, painted me as mentally unstable, as someone who had abandoned her marriage. They forged documents, fabricated stories, and I had no resources left to fight back. The divorce went through. They kept everything, my business, my properties, my cars, my jewelry, my investments. Everything I had spent years building was gone. Brandon's lawyer handed me $500 as I left the courthouse. "For your troubles," he said with a smirk. "Now disappear." I stood on the street with one suitcase, $500, and absolutely nothing else. I had no family, no friends. Brandon had isolated me from everyone during our marriage. I had nowhere to go. I sat on a bench in the park that night, seriously considering just walking into traffic and ending it all. What was the point? They had taken everything. I was broken, destroyed, with no way to climb back. But then I remembered Aunt Clara. She was my late mother's sister, someone I hadn't seen in years because life had gotten so busy. She lived in another city with her husband George. With my last bit of money, I bought a bus ticket. When I showed up at her door, sobbing and broken, Aunt Clara didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into her arms and held me while I cried. "You're safe now, child," she whispered. "You're safe." She and Uncle George let me stay in their spare room. They ran a small textile business, nothing fancy, just enough to live comfortably. They didn't judge me. They didn't tell me I was stupid for trusting Brandon. They just gave me space to heal. I cried for weeks. Some days I couldn't get out of bed, but Aunt Clara would sit with me, stroke my hair, and tell me stories about my mother. "She was the strongest woman I knew," Clara would say. "And that strength lives in you, Margot. They took your money, not your brain. They took your possessions, not your spirit." Slowly, very slowly, I started to come back to life. Uncle George offered me work in their textile shop. "Start from the bottom," he said kindly. "Learn, rebuild, remember who you are." So I did. I cut fabric, managed supplies, dealt with customers. I worked 16-hour days and saved every single penny. With a $2,000 loan from Aunt Clara, I started a small online boutique from their basement. I used everything I had learned from my previous business, but this time I was smarter, more careful, more strategic. I focused on unique designs and ethical sourcing. The business grew slowly, so slowly, but it grew. 1 year later, I had $50,000 in revenue. 2 years later, $500,000. 3 years later, $5 million. 5 years after Brandon threw me out on the street, I had built Ethereal Luxe Holdings, a massive fashion and lifestyle empire worth over $200 million. I kept my identity private this time. I operated through board members and lawyers. In business circles, they called me the Silent Empress, this mysterious figure who built an empire from nothing and never showed her face. I liked it that way. Anonymity was power. My company started acquiring struggling businesses. That's when my team presented me with an interesting opportunity. A company called Prestige Solutions was facing bankruptcy. I almost passed on it until I saw the name of their operations director, Brandon Hayes. My heart stopped. I dug deeper. Brandon had run my original business into the ground within 3 years. Everything I had built, he had destroyed through sheer incompetence and greed. Now he was working for someone else, making decent money but nothing spectacular. And Prestige Solutions was drowning in debt. I also discovered he had connections to another failing company, Apex Industries. The irony was delicious. I bought both companies anonymously through shell corporations. Just like that, I became Brandon's boss, and he had no idea. Around this time, I attended an international business summit in Dubai. That's where I met Julian Sterling. He was a self-made billionaire worth about $1.8 billion. Someone who had built his empire in tech and real estate. But what struck me about Julian wasn't his wealth. It was the way he looked at me when we were introduced. "The silent empress herself," he said with genuine respect. "I've been wanting to meet you." We talked for hours. He knew my story, not the Brandon part, but my business journey. He respected my mind, my strategies, my strength. There was no pretense, no games, just real conversation between two people who understood what it meant to build something from nothing. Julian courted me properly for a year. He flew across continents just to have dinner with me. He sent thoughtful gifts, books he thought I'd like, art from his travels, notes about business deals he thought I'd find interesting. When he proposed on his yacht at sunset, he said something I'll never forget. "Build an empire with me, not for me." We married in an intimate ceremony. I insisted on a prenup that protected both our assets equally. Julian didn't just agree, he respected me more for it. This was what partnership looked like. This was what love looked like. Not Brandon's manipulation and theft, but Julian's genuine respect and support. Life was finally perfect. I had rebuilt everything I lost and more. I had a husband who was truly my partner. Aunt Clara and Uncle George were living comfortably, retired early thanks to my success. I should have been completely happy. Then the invitation arrived. It came to Aunt Clara's old address, the only address Brandon had for me. She forwarded it with a note. "Are you sure you want to see this?" I opened the expensive envelope with shaking hands. Brandon was getting married to someone named Cassandra, a doctor. The wedding was at a luxury hotel, but it was the personal note inside that made my blood boil. "Margot, I hope you found peace in your simple life. Come celebrate my new beginning with someone who truly deserves me. No hard feelings." The audacity, the absolute audacity of this man. Aunt Clara grabbed the invitation from my hands. "Don't go. He doesn't deserve to see you. Let the past stay buried." But Julian disagreed. He read the note and then looked at me with this knowing smile. "Let's go," he said simply. "Let's end this chapter properly. Let's show him exactly what he lost and what you became." I thought about it for days. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let Brandon live in ignorance. But another part of me, the part that had been thrown out on the street, that had been beaten and humiliated and robbed, that part wanted justice. That part wanted him to know. So I RSVP'd as Mrs. Margot Sterling. The day of the wedding, I wore a champagne silk gown that cost more than Brandon's annual salary. My jewelry was real, diamonds that caught the light with every movement. Julian wore a custom Italian suit, and together we looked like exactly what we were: powerful, successful, untouchable. We walked into that luxury hotel like royalty, heads turned. People whispered, "Who are they?" I heard someone ask. The venue was beautiful. Brandon had clearly spent a fortune on this wedding, probably money he didn't have, knowing him. We found seats and I observed. Brandon's family was there, Patricia dripping in what looked like expensive jewelry but was probably costume pieces now. Kyle looked less confident than I remembered, softer around the edges like life hadn't been kind. Nicole seemed tired, worn down. They hadn't noticed me yet. The ceremony began. Brandon stood at the altar looking smug, like a man who had gotten away with everything. His bride Cassandra seemed sweet, genuinely happy, and I felt a pang of pity for her. She had no idea what she was marrying into. Then, right in the middle of his vows, Brandon spotted me. His eyes went wide, his face drained of all color. He actually stammered. I do," he managed to choke out, but he couldn't stop staring at me. Patricia noticed and started whispering frantically to Kyle. The ceremony continued, but the energy had shifted. Brandon kept glancing back at me, his confidence crumbling. During the cocktail hour, Brandon couldn't help himself. He approached me, his voice dripping with contempt despite the fear in his eyes. "Margot, what are you doing here?" I smiled, calm, collected, powerful. "Congratulating you, Brandon. Lovely wedding." Then I gestured to Julian beside me. "This is my husband, Julian Sterling." I watched it click. Brandon's jaw literally dropped. "Sterling? The Julian Sterling?" His voice cracked. Suddenly his whole family was surrounding us, having recognized Julian from business magazines. Patricia's entire demeanor changed. "Margot, darling, you look so well. We've missed you." Kyle nodded eagerly. "Yes, we often think about you." Nicole tried to touch my arm. "It's so good to see you." I looked at each of them with ice in my eyes. "I'm sure you have," I said flatly. Their fake smiles wavered. Then the best man called for everyone's attention. "We have a special announcement from Prestige Solutions Leadership," he said into the microphone. "Our parent company's CEO is here tonight to celebrate with us." Brandon's face lit up. He actually looked proud, excited to finally meet his mysterious boss. The company's VP took the microphone. "Please welcome the CEO of Ethereal Lux Holdings, the visionary who acquired our company last year and saved us from bankruptcy." The spotlight swung to me. I stood slowly, feeling every eye in the room on me. I walked to the stage in complete silence. You could have heard a pin drop. "Hello, everyone," I said clearly. "I'm Margot Sterling, CEO of Ethereal Lux Holdings." I paused, watching Brandon's face contort in horror. "I also own Apex Industries, the company Brandon here used to own before he ran it into the ground." Gasps erupted throughout the room. Patricia actually fainted, just collapsed right there. Kyle tried to bolt for the exit, but security stopped him. Nicole burst into tears. I wasn't done. "Brandon, do you remember what you told me when you threw me out? You said I was nothing. You took $3.2 million from me." My voice grew stronger. "I built $200 million. You stole my company. I bought yours. You threw me out. I'm now your boss." I turned to address the room. "Some of you work for companies I own and don't even know it. Brandon, you're fired. Effective immediately. Patricia, Kyle, Nicole, there's a fraud investigation starting Monday morning. I have evidence of everything. Every forged signature, every illegal transfer, every lie you told." Julian stepped up beside me. "My legal team has been preparing for months," he added calmly. "We have 5 other victims ready to testify. Your family's little scheme is over." Security escorted Brandon's family out as they screamed and protested. Brandon tried to approach me, tears streaming down his face. "Margot, please, we can talk about this. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who had destroyed me, who had stolen everything, who had made me believe I was worthless. Now he was begging. "You had your chance to talk, Brandon. You chose to steal instead. You chose cruelty instead. Now live with the consequences." His new bride Cassandra approached me, crying. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear I didn't know what he did to you." My anger softened slightly. She was innocent in this. "I know you didn't," I said gently. "Leave him. Trust me. He'll do to you what he did to me." The wedding dissolved into chaos. Most of the guests sided with me. Apparently, Brandon's reputation in the business community was already questionable. By the next morning, the media had picked up the story. "Silent Empress Exposes Wedding Fraud Scheme" was trending on every platform. Within a week, criminal charges were filed. Brandon, Patricia, and Kyle were arrested for fraud, forgery, theft, and conspiracy. Their assets were frozen. They were facing 10 to 15 years in prison each. Through the legal proceedings, we discovered they had conned 5 other women exactly the same way they'd conned me. All those victims came forward, and together we built an ironclad case. I recovered my original $3.2 million through the courts, but I didn't keep it. I donated every penny to women's shelters and organizations that help abuse victims rebuild their lives. I don't need their dirty money anymore, I told Julian, but someone else might need hope. 6 months later, Brandon was sentenced to 12 years in prison. His family got similar sentences. Their entire empire of lies had been exposed. Cassandra divorced him before the trial even ended and thanked me for saving her from a terrible mistake. My companies continued to thrive. Aunt Clara and Uncle George retired to a beautiful home by the beach, my gift to them for saving my life. Julian and I are expecting our first child now, a daughter. We're going to name her Clara, after the woman who taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you have nothing left. I think about Brandon sometimes, not with anger anymore, just with pity. He had everything, a successful wife, a thriving business, a real chance at happiness, and he destroyed it all because of greed. Meanwhile, I lost everything and built something even bigger from the ashes. There's a quote I keep on my desk now. They tried to bury me. They didn't know I was a seed. That's exactly what happened. Brandon and his family thought they destroyed me. They thought they took everything that mattered, but they only took things: money, property, possessions. They couldn't take my mind. They couldn't take my determination. They couldn't take the core of who I am. The best revenge isn't just success. It's showing them that they never broke you. It's proving that you're stronger than their cruelty, bigger than their hate, more powerful than their worst intentions. It's standing in your truth so completely that their lies can't touch you anymore. I didn't just survive what Brandon did to me. I conquered it. I turned my pain into power, my loss into legacy. And honestly, I should probably thank him, because being thrown into the fire taught me I was fireproof. Being torn down taught me how to build unbreakable foundations. Losing everything taught me what actually matters. So to anyone out there who's been betrayed, stolen from, or broken down, your story isn't over. This isn't your ending. It's just your beginning. The comeback is always stronger than the setback. Always. Never let anyone steal your light. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful comeback stories. Comment below, I am unstoppable. Say it, believe it, become it. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their story isn't over. Remember, your comeback will always be stronger than your setback. See you in the next one, warriors.